I think some people would say that this in some way looks better, that maybe the Singer's a bit over-engineered. Maybe that's how they justify their big sticker prices. They're $500,000 upwards, or now $2 to $3 million for a DLS. What do you think of Singer?
I think they're awesome. I've known Rob before he even had Singer, you know, from the California car culture scene.
So you know so you remember him back even before the first car?
Yeah, like I said, I knew him before he formed Singer Vehicle Design.
When he was a Singer.
Yeah, Catherine Wheel. You know, we all know Rob's the cousin of Bruce Dickinson from Iron Maiden. We know that story, Catherine Wheel.
Yeah.
So I think what they've done is exceptional. The Savile Row bespoke 911 tailoring. What I chose to do, though, was something different. They're backdating to look like an earlier ST-inspired long hood.
Yeah.
My goal was keep all 964 DNA intact. This is the original 964 bumper. This is the original 964 rocker panel, which I made one piece, so there's no annoying seam right here.
No shark fin anymore.
Well, the shark fin's still there.
But it's part of the
panel.
panel.
You don't have the annoying seam there.
Yeah.
Clean. Original bumper, original fenders. The only thing on this car that's not original 964 is an early 3-litre turbo tail.
So is that what it is?
Yeah.
Or you've refashioned it? Or is it actually a 930 turbo tail?
Well, let me tell you the story. 964s look great with ducktails, but that's been done before. That's pretty common. You're all about the 964 RS America, I think. To me, that wing is too wide for what is essentially a narrow-bodied car. 964 turbo, different story. But RS America, it's an overpowering wing. So back to doing something that had never ever been done before. I took a 3-litre turbo tail, took off the rubber, had my buddy Matt bound, reprofile the lip, give it a slight gurney sort of ducktail, and then channel it. This doesn't exist. You can't go to any manufacturer and get this wing. This was the most difficult part of the car. Forget about everything I've talked about, channel hood, louvered fender, R-inspired turn signals. This was the most difficult part of the car.
But why so determined to have it on the car?
Visually, to me, to my eye, because I'm building the car for myself, I needed something that visually didn't overpower the rear and hadn't been done before.
Something distinctive, yeah.
Unique.
Yeah.
This doesn't exist in any Porsche aftermarket catalogue.
So that brings me to another question, which I know we talked about off camera. Why doesn't Magnus Walker provide and engineer cars for other people?
You know, to me, this is a hobby. It's an out-of-control hobby. You know, it's like you come to me and say, yeah, I love this, but I'd like it to be something else. You know, I've just been around a long time where I've run companies, clothing companies and things like that. I just don't want the headache.
But there'd be huge appetite for it across the world.
Sure.
Yeah, there would, because of the stamp that you put on cars, your individual creativity and your passion for the product. You'd make a fortune, Magnus.
Well, sure. I mean, you know, you're not wrong about that. You're right about that. You know, it would be easy to go, okay, yeah, I've seen what other manufacturers have done, right? And we've talked about
and given the appetite for Singer and Theon and all these restomods and
talk about Gunther Works, another perfect example, right?
$700,000 yesterday. I saw at the show, Saturday at the show.
Yeah, the $1 million cars. Yes, I could say, let's build 100 of these and make them to that level. I don't want the responsibility and the headache at this point in my life. It took Singer 10 years to make 100 cars. 10 years to make 100.
Yeah.
They were making 10 a year and struggling along the way.
Yeah.
You know, they finally got there in the end.
And now they're doing what, 100 a year? I think they've just made their 330th car. I think,
well, they've been in business 15 years, so divide 315 into
and a very different business now to what it was. 900 employees, depending on who you speak to.
You're using
venture
the word
funded
business. I'm using the word hobby. Two different things.
Yeah.
So I'm at the point in my life where I like my hobby being a hobby. You don't see anyone here work. These are all my own creations.
You're truly not interested in the financials, are you?
Not from cars, no. I mean,
I think
that's not my motivation.
It comes through. It's admirable. It really is. Can we just talk very quickly about 924, 944, 968? We said earlier on, again off camera, and notwithstanding and probably accepting Carrera GTs, which of course there are only 406 Carrera GTs. 924 turbo, again, underestimated, probably still undervalued, but regular 928s and regular 944s, I think, certainly in Britain, given that they are, a third of the price of the equivalent G-body 911 that would have been made next to them in the factory, these things I think are really underrated. As cars, and again, I know we don't want to keep talking about the value side, but from a value perspective, the fact you can pick up a 928 S4 in Britain for 25 grand and a 944 Series 1, let's say, for 10 grand, 12 grand. I mean, it's ridiculous by comparison compared to 911. They're a different car, but they're no less a car, are they?
No, I mean, this is a Series 1. This is first year of production. So you look at this Series 1 928. This was way, way ahead of its time. You've got to remember, this design is now 50 years old. But look at this center console. This center console is in every 911 from a Boxer to a Macan to a Panamera. Yeah. This was just way ahead of its time. Let's not forget, in 1978, this was European Car of the Year. But it looks gorgeous now, let alone back then. Well, it's timeless design. And unique. You look at the 928 though, and you see Panamera and Macan in it. Yeah. There's a company restomodding these, right? Yeah, there is. So, you know, to me, we talked about modification. This is a bone stock 1980 turbo, the way it left the factory. My dad had one of these in green, would you believe? Yeah, it was a cool colour. Yeah, back in the mid-80s. Pasha, right? Yeah. Yeah. Which, you know, 20 years ago, maybe even 10 years ago, people would have turned their nose up at. Now, people are fitting their newer cars with interiors that resemble Pasha. Timing's everything. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, 1980 bone stock turbo, owl whole bodied, wide bodied 1980 turbo, and then Carrera GT, and then 944, and then the last year of the 968. So if you want to talk about front engine, water cooled, transaxle, the best of the bunch really is the 968. And this is a 968 coupe or a sport? It's a coupe, right? Coupe. 968 debuted in 1992. That black one over there is 92. Only had a short production run. It ended in 1995. So this was the maximized potential of the 4-cylinder engine, 3-liter. The challenge with a lot of 924s and 944s, including turbos, is you got to rev the nuts off them. There's no bottom end torque. Yeah. So they're really kind of hyper cars in the sense of you just got to rev the nuts off. But they're incredibly well balanced. These are 50-50, right? Yeah. The point here, though, is with it being a 3-liter, it's just got enough torque. But the best of the bunch, if you want a front-engine transaxle car, for my dollar, without a shadow of a doubt, is the 928. Yeah. Because it's usable performance, they're more nimble than you expect them to be. They actually handle great. So that's kind of the story with the front-engine water-cooled transaxle cars. We touched base a little bit on mid-engined 914s. I do have a Cayman on my list. That you own? No, not I own, but that's going to cover the mid-engine water-cooled section. Okay, so I've got some questions in that respect, if you don't mind. But let's talk about Jaguar first, can we? So, sure. Again, people might be surprised that you're about to become a Jaguar man. I know you've always been a Jaguar man. Not become. I mean, you walk past two of them outside. I've owned every generation of E-Types. But I mean, your collaboration, which I think is very interesting, with? Well, with TWR, Tom Walkinshaw Racing. So for those that don't know, TWR was Jag's racing arm in the 80s. Tom Walkinshaw was a racer himself, developed his own company, which was performance enhancements, mostly based around Jags. Famously in the touring car division with TWR XJS, which was highly competitive. But more than that, they helped develop the XJR, the XJ15, and the iconic XJ220. TWR had their first overall victory at Le Mans in 1988, and they won again in 1995 with Stefan Johansson behind the wheel. So TWR is a heritage brand that actually has legitimate race history. The company has been reformed, rebooted by Tom's son Fergus. I was brought on as a design consultant over 18 months ago, ironically, to do a project that I always wanted to do. I've been into Jags a long, long time. Like I said, I've owned E-Types, XJ6s, XJSs, and I even spoke to Ian Callum, Jag's designer, when he was at Jag 5 years ago, who'd famously done his own XJ6 coupe, and they'd built one for the Iron Maiden drummer Nico McBain. And I spoke to him at the Geneva Auto Show in 2019 about doing a hot rod XJS Jag with Jag heritage, which they loved the idea, but it never actually panned out. Fast forward to late 2022, I get an email from a former Porsche guy that was now involved with TWR asking would I be interested in collaborating with TWR as a design consultant. Just out of the blue? On a hot rod Jag. Yeah. I go, you must be a mind reader. I've actually wanted to do this project for 5 years. So I've been on that project for the past 18 months as a design consultant. And as we're shooting this on the 29th of April, it launches... Tomorrow morning. Tomorrow, on the 30th, imminently. Yeah. So essentially what it is wide-bodied V12 supercharged 6-speed manual, updated conversion of, let's call it a GT touring / race inspired wide-bodied edition of the iconic Jag XJS, which, as we know, debuted in 1975 when it replaced the E-Type.
Yeah.
The only thing that held the XJS back was it replaced the E-Type.
Yeah.
Let's not forget Enzo Ferrari called the E-Type the most beautiful car in the world. So how could the XJS ever succeed?
And the car that apparently looked like it was doing 100 miles an hour standing still, right? And, and actually, as soon as they labelled the XJS as the car to replace the E-Type, that was the problem. They should never have done that, because the XJS would have stood on its own 2 feet otherwise, I'm sure. And is the idea behind these reborn XJSs that the customer can kind of spec them as they would, again, going back to the whole Singer thing, so they can collaborate with TWR and say, this is the interior I want, these are the wheels I want, ultimate colour, and so on.
Yeah,
right, so that sounds cool.
We talked briefly about a lot of resto-modded cars, whether the Porsches or Lancias, or a lot of people are doing updated versions to all these iconic cars and marques, but no one's really messed with the XJS. A lot of people have played around with the E-Type, Eagle E-Types famously, you know, just great editions of the E-Type, but no one really tweaked the XJS.
And they're still pretty cheap, right? I think they are in the UK and here. There's a few of them. I guess as we're Singer in the 964, maybe as part of this collaboration now, if we're sitting here in 2 years' time, we might look back and say, wow, do you remember when XJSs were only $30,000? Now look at them.
Well, you can buy them here for 5-10 grand. I got one outside I paid $7,500 for.
Wow, right.
And
So
it's a running driving V12 88 XJS.
Yeah.
So they're affordable.
Underestimated, for sure. So launches, and how many cars are they going to produce, TWR?
They're going to make 88 of them, which is significant because 1988 was the first year TWR won outright at Le Mans.
But manufactured here, US?
No, they're all based out of the UK.
Oh, so it's a UK-built car. So for world markets, though?
Yeah, it's a global market of the TWR reinterpretation, I guess, of the Jaguar XJS that are built in England to customer spec.
And you can give us a sneak view on price? Starting from?
Well, yeah, this will be up after that thing's out. 225 grand is what they're selling them for.
Wow, okay, which by comparison isn't expensive. It is, but it isn't.
Yeah.
In comparison to what you could pay for you know, a similar car of a different make. The Alpha, you've seen the Alphaholics.
Yeah.
Even their little Alpha 1600 is 300 grand.
Yeah, that's a little
Singer's 500 plus, and so on and so on.
Yeah.
So, right, wow.
So time will tell. For me, it's just a fun project of doing something that's a passion project. I do things that, you know, I just do cool shit with cool people.
Yeah.
This came at a time when I was ready to do something that wasn't Porsche centric.
Yeah.
I'm also doing something with Pininfarina, going out to Turin to collaborate on a version of their 2,000 horsepower all electric.
Can we go and have a look at that quickly?
Sure, yeah.
This is incredible. I didn't expect to see this in Magnus Walker's cave.
Come on,
Willow.
Yeah, you also don't expect what you expect.
Yeah, and this is certainly unexpected.